Welcome back, everyone. I'm Deborah Gardner, the host for Hospitality Today Live. And we, as you know, are celebrating GMID. And our next guest is Dr. Lorie Tuma. She serves as a professor at Grand State University. She teaches courses in international tourism, tourism policy, and advanced special event programming. Her research focuses on meeting and event industry trends, skill sets, and training development needs. Now, Dr. Tuma developed a global event management curriculum for Meeting Professionals International. She's founded 2 MPI student clubs and co-founder for the Beyond Hands-On program. And in 2017, Dr. Tuma presented her research on the development of social media curriculum before the United Nations World Tourism Organization in Spain. And a year later, she served as a visiting scholar at Vancouver Island University and team taught a graduate course in sustainability and leisure management program. A brilliant businesswoman that has extensive experience will share what our future looks like with the students wanting a career in hospitality. And therefore, Dr. Lorie Tuma, she will be with us actually right now. So don't go away. We'll be right back. The official title sponsor for Hospitality Today Live on this special edition for GMID is Efficient Health Solutions, your preferred health insurance provider for the hospitality industry. EfficientHealthSolutions.com. Well, here we are with Dr. Lorie Tuma. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Deborah. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're excited to have you as well. And it's going to be a very special one episode because we've never had anybody talk about the students, our future in the hospitality industry. And you are so brilliant and so involved. We couldn't not have you on this show. And so I read just your credentials already, but my goodness, there's so much to know about you regarding your experience in the event management and programming areas. And you've got the franchisee of Carlson companies that you've taught. You've done event programming in the Middle East. You've been an international flight attendant. I mean, what else do we not know about you?
It's a lot. I know. It's a lot.
It's great. It's wonderful. I just, I'm so happy that, again, you're on the show because you've got so much to share with us. And I wanted to start with, what is Beyond Hands-On program? Can you explain to us what that is?
Oh, sure. So this is interesting because this program, Beyond Hands-On, was actually created by a former guest of yours, Courtney Stanley. So she was actually a student of mine at Central Michigan University, and we were trying to build the first MPI student club, and we were trying to figure out ways in which we could connect event management students with real large-scale events and get them sort of some on-the-job training and shadowing and mentoring and that kind of thing. So we sat down one day and made a list of all of the different events that we thought would be just the most amazing things to ever have students work at. And then we just got on the phone and started calling, MPI members and other people in those organizations and asking them, would you need some help putting this together? Would you like some volunteers? We can bring down a busload of students. And then we just started showing up. So we formalized the program. We called it Beyond Hands-On. And then we asked, in exchange for the students volunteering, would that organization be willing to provide either like a LinkedIn recommendation or some type of letter or verification that they actually did work in that capacity. And it just blew up. I mean, we took students to the Louisville Film Festival twice. We took a busload of 50 students there, the Country Music Film Festival and the award show. Boston Marathon students went there, Super Bowl a couple of times, Food Network they worked with. So they've just been literally all over the nation. It has been so exciting.
That is incredible because our industry is all about hands-on. So I love how you called that program Beyond Hands-On, because what you've done is you've taken our future in the hospitality industry and putting them in a real life experience and connecting with other people from the industry. I mean, that's just a brilliant program. And I would imagine it's still continuing to this day, correct?
Well, we had to sort of put it on hold with the pandemic as everything
Oh,
else.
yeah, right.
Yeah, it still exists. We still receive requests from, I think the last one we got was from the Michigan Governors Conference. And so we just do this. We connect students with opportunities any way we can in whatever capacity we can. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
That is really cool. And, you brought up the pandemic, which, is one of the hot topics still on this show. And I would imagine, with the students and dealing with the students and hearing the overall experience that they went through during the pandemic had to have been really interesting, because the pandemic is still unbelievable that it even happened. But what happened to the young professional careers of people just getting in the industry or wanting to get into the industry and seeing what's happened? Can you provide us a snapshot of what hospitality and tourism management students actually experience in and out of the classroom since January 2020 and now? I mean,
yeah,
what have they been going through?
It's been quite stressful on them, aside from the initial confusion, frustration, anger, fear, sadness, depression, and eventually resolution. We find that there are a lot of industry-related deficits that resulted from the pandemic that may take us a while to manage. Just to mention a few of them, a lot of our students, they had limited exposure to the industry through the practical experiences that they usually receive.
Right.
They didn't travel, they didn't attend conferences, they didn't attend weddings, they didn't finish their internships, or they had very limited ability to fully experience those internships. So, and again, given that every experience builds on your knowledge, when you can't place practical industry experience with academic theory or observe industry best practices, your skill set is really limited. So we're finding some real disparities in the practical industry, the practical application side of things. And Deborah, we're also finding that many students learned how to live their own personal lives away from the industry and completely sort of away from the pandemic or during this pandemic. They had different choices that did not include travel, hotels, trips, dinners, all the things that they're trained to deliver.
Right.
But as a result, they found new ways of enjoying themselves and living their lives. And these new ways of living have changed them not only personally, but I think also in the way they experience what you and I know to be industry deliverables. So there have been some things that have really happened as a result of this.
Right. Yeah. But, there's always a silver lining. But to get there is a lot of confusion, a lot of anger, as you mentioned, and especially when, they're putting their time and effort into to study for a career, and to see that career go down to the dumps, they had to have questioned themselves. Am I in the right industry? Am I in the right, study room for what I want to do for the rest of my life? I would imagine that had to have been a conversation.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Many conversations.
Yeah.
And, the faculty, we really, and I know in our university, our goal was just to really remain available to them, to not only the students that were in our program, but also the students that have graduated, our alumni, and some of our, newly minted professionals. our goal was just keep the phone lines open. Yeah, and of course you have to realize we didn't even know the outcome, right? So it was a lot of, testing technology and just trying to keep the lines of communication open and helping them any way we could. So we're
Right.
starting now to see that light at the end of the tunnel, thank God, but for a while it was pretty challenging.
Yeah, I bet it was, because your role as a professor teaching these students all about, the hospitality and tourism probably flipped to
Yeah.
kind of like Mother Hubbard, probably trying to get them emotionally through this. I mean, that probably was a different role that you probably had to play as well.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a fine line because when you're a professor, your goal and I guess the expectation is that you maintain very stringent professional, lines of with the relationships that you have with your students. And
Right,
now all of a sudden you're sort of shifted over into this coddling mode a little bit,
right,
and that
right.
was very difficult for me. I'll be
I
honest
bet.
with you because I'm generally sort of like that anyway. I'm sort of like the mother hen in the department, but it can be a catch-22. So you really had to take on new ways of doing things and having conversations. And then the other thing too is that the university I felt was really good in terms of providing us with resources so we could do referrals if we felt like students were having a more difficult time than probably was expected. So we were utilizing a lot of those resources too.
Right, right. That's good. Yeah, I think resources were really key to getting us through the pandemic. And but I totally understand the role switching. I'm used to usually being on the traveling road, and all of a sudden I became a domestic housewife. It's
Oh
like,
yeah.
what? Wait a minute. This is not what I
Right.
signed up for.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
but for you, I mean, how many students do you have?
Oh, in any given semester, 100,
I
120.
know, and you had to cater to all that emotion that had to been really, really difficult on you.
Yeah.
Now, did you see that a lot of students or any students back out to where they're like, you know what, this is not for me, and they decided to pick another career? Or did most of them hang in there and say, hey, we're going to get through this?
Well, the students, most of the students stuck it out, the ones that were registered for class and they saw their programs through to the end. But what we saw more than anything were the disparities between some of our newly minted alumni that had just entered the industry
Okay.
and the others that had continually built their career in the industry for several years. So many of our young professionals who were building their careers in hospitality, a lot of them settled into new jobs and even within new industries and are, unfortunately, probably not likely to return. I think, some of the conversations that I've had with alumni, they're still very fearful of disruption and they're not really interested in rebuilding again. They just don't want to go through this again.
That's
So to
unfortunate. Yeah.
yeah, and sort of to put it into perspective, they've lost 2 years of experience in the industry that they can really never get back.
Right.
And
Right.
knowing that this industry, and you know this very well, can change more in 2 years than in 20, it's really devastating to someone trying to build their career. So that can be
Right.
challenging.
Well,
On the
talking about a lesson learned for them, for the students before even coming in, because I don't even think it really matters what career there was disruption. So,
Right.
but here, if for those of your students that are hanging in there and going forth and being resilient about it, boy, if they can handle this, they're going to be able to handle anything
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
industry. And it changes all the time. There's always turbulence. There's always challenges, and that's going to make them stronger
Right.
because they went through this. So they should be very proud that those that continue to come through, because we want them. We
Yeah.
want them to come in and take over our roles and make this industry bigger and better than ever before. Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah. And that was the other group of students that we noticed. The resiliency was amazing and inspiring. There were students that just found new ways of doing business. they took the time during the pandemic to find niches,
That's
new ways
great.
to stay in the game and remain relevant. And it's interesting now to see what they've done and what they've been able to accomplish while holding on. So that's been
Huh.
really inspiring.
Can you give us an example of what
Yeah.
they've done?
Well, I'll give you an example of a gentleman. He actually served as a guest speaker for my class this last semester. His name is Jeremy Nichols. And he's actually a headhunter for the hospitality industry in Florida. He served as a virtual guest in my class, and he was talking to the students about his transition and sort of the pivot. We hear that word all the time, but during that time. But it's a good example of someone who found a new niche. He historically has worked one-on-one, face-to-face with recruiters from, like Marriott, Fairfax, all the different larger chains and some of the larger hospitality organizations. But when the pandemic hit, obviously recruiting stood still, right?
Right.
And so what he did was he started a YouTube page. And in the middle of the pandemic, he just started inviting people on that he didn't normally have access to. Because, I told the students this during the time that the pandemic hit and we were in class. I said, you have to look at this right now as an opportunity, regardless of what it is. You have access to people right now that you would have never had access to.
Right.
So take time, build that LinkedIn page and reach out, make connections, ask people for 20 minutes of their day and just, make an appointment online, have coffee together. And that's really what Jeremy did. He's sort of a success story. He built this page. And now, ironically, the YouTube page is a bigger part of his business.
Isn't that great?
So, yeah, that's, it's just
that's where you just don't know where the opportunity is going to come from. If you're going to be open-minded, you never know what's going to flow through. And now he'll keep that and utilize that as an extension to his business. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I'm glad your students got a chance to hear that because they can do the same thing.
Sure.
Right. Absolutely. So what are the challenges that lie ahead, past this pandemic for the entry-level candidates, those graduating from college, university, and hospitality industry, business industries that are attempting to find the normal? They want to be hired, they want to be trained, they want to retain the talented staff. What do those challenges look like in the near future?
Yeah, I'm really glad we're talking about this because I don't think we're having enough conversations about this. I think that there are many challenges, but there are also many opportunities. So just to name a few, there will have to be, in my opinion, there's going to have to be some compromises and some experiments. I think the industry will need to consider refraining from the way that work used to be accomplished in a traditional 8, 10, 12-hour day. And I think we're also going to have to look at different ways to recognize and reward our employees for what they bring to the table. So, for example, the traditional performance review, the one that maybe took place the first 90 days and then maybe on an annual basis thereafter. Well, we might have to look at it more now in terms of like a coaching, mentoring partnership in an environment that is ongoing, in an environment in which new hires can get immediate information. I find this, I'm a case method teacher. So basically what I did during the pandemic was I removed a lot of the exams and the quizzes and the memorize this by this date, a lot of the timelines. And instead I injected conversation in class. Here's a case. Let's discuss it. What do you think about it? Taking like a more philosophical approach, being neither right or wrong. You're not going to get checked off for being right or wrong, but what does this mean to you? What kind of meaning can you create from this? And I think this is maybe the way that organizations are going to have to evaluate some of their employees. I think they're going to have to be a little bit more open-minded and approach it in terms of an ongoing training process, shadowing, mentoring. Those are concepts that I think are really going to come into play.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. The whole performance thing review needs to be revamped
Right, right.
completely. And I know you're saying it softly to our viewers that are listening, but I think it really needs to be done.
Yeah, it goes, it extends to Deborah, to even how the HR office functions. I think that the HR office may need to take on a bit of a different structure. We know that a lot of HR offices have operated sort of like being a place where people are hired or fired or reprimanded, or where you fill out your forms and that kind of thing. But I think that may need to change a little bit. And I
Yeah.
I wanted to reference something when I was earning my master's degree at Central Michigan University. This was in, I think, 2005-06. I was writing my thesis, and my master's, believe it or not, is in HR. But I was doing a case study on Steve Wynn, who is, Las
Yes.
Vegas mogul. But
Right.
at that time, he had just started building like the Mirage and Treasure Island. And in 2006, his organization won the Optimus Award. And it was a coveted award. But the reason why they won it was because they viewed the HR office as sort of like a city hall, a place where employees can come and go casually, drop in, receive assistance if they needed it. It wasn't a phone call that you made to an HR office. It was actually a place where employees convened to have lunch. It was a casual environment. And I think if we go back to some of those practices, some of those things that we were doing way back when, before we had social media and all this technology and we're really busy during our day, if we go back in time and look at some of those strategies, I think that might serve us well.
Yeah, the basics, the foundation of our industry. Yeah, that's a great idea. And I love your idea about turning it into a coaching, mentoring process. Then it would be less scary. I remember working in hotels, and every time I got called to HR, I got real nervous. It's like,
I know.
what did I do?
I know.
And so it needs to be more user friendly.
Yes, absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
like that. I like
But
that idea.
the other thing I was going to mention too is I don't think it's just industry that's going to have to change. I also think colleges and universities are going to have to change too. I think we're
Okay.
going to have to revisit our curriculum and make some changes to the way we teach and how we deliver content and how we train our students to be extremely competitive in this new market. And I think that our study abroad, our international programming is going to have to be changed. We should be maybe asking, instead of, are you going to study abroad? Are you going to travel abroad and experience abroad? And what new meaning can you bring from that back to, your industry? So I think there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different things that are going to have to change. But those are just,
Yeah. And I think that's very fair to say and put into place, because the students are going to be expecting that.
oh yeah,
These students today are brilliant. They're bright. They want to be challenged. They want to be sparked.
yeah,
And if we are not on our game at the teaching level, then we're going to lose them.
absolutely.
So I think that's brilliant, because it is time to take a look at our curriculums and changing things up so that they can learn as much as possible, because our industry is always changing. So the material, the teachings need to be constantly changing as well. So
Absolutely.
I totally agree with you on that. And so what the industry, what will need to be done now? I mean, talking about now above and beyond something like the curriculum, going forward to build and grow and succeed in this time, in order to embrace these students, shouldn't we be more proactive on our side to getting them more involved? I mean, I love your program Beyond Hands-On, but
Yes.
every organization in the hospitality industry should have some sort of student scholarships or foundation toward it, or something to embrace them, because again, we can't grow or build this industry without them at this point.
Oh, absolutely. And I when I have students in class, what I say to them is, so It's so similar to what we should be doing in the workplace. So when a student comes into our program, I say, okay, you have two responsibilities. Your first responsibility is to complete your classes, do your homework, get good, get as good a grades as you possibly can, study
Right.
hard, all that stuff. Your other responsibility is to network, to join professional organizations, to meet people, to build that LinkedIn page, to really gain momentum, because in this industry, unlike many others, it is about who you know. And it is about what you know and what you bring to the table. But I think if you took that concept and you drop that concept into a job, like a normal organization that is hiring candidates that are coming post pandemic,
Right.
I think we need to do the same thing. I think when I talk about the workplace looking differently, the 8-hour workday, maybe that's a 6-hour workday, and then a 2-hour day where your responsibility is to reach out and network, or attend an MPI meeting or a PCMA meeting or something like
Sure.
that,
Sure.
or extend yourself into NACE, or attend a Chamber of Commerce meeting or business after hours. I think we need to start teaching people to reconnect with people so that they understand that we are the people's business.
Right.
We're the largest industry in the world, tourism and hospitality, make the world go around. But we need to teach our people that it's okay to reach across the table again and reconnect.
Good point. Very good point. And I believe that's the quickest way students are going to be hired is if they stand out. And the best way to stand out is to ask questions, network, stand up and be known. Let them know you are there and available. And that's the first thing they're going to look at is who's being, aggressive to wanting to be in this industry. So on the students' part, I believe that. On the meeting side of it, I really believe there needs to be more embracing done. I think they need to have internships in every department of every organization, association, and bring these students in and teach them right from the start. So I believe on both ends need to really start looking at the students a lot differently in order to grow. So definitely an important part of who we are. No doubt. So is there any advice, tips, suggestions that you would like to add to the mix, whether it's the student side or what about the leaders of the industry, the U.S. Travel Association, the Events International Association, all these big leaders of the industries, or anything on the CEO president's side that they can actually do?
I believe so. I really do. I think that the key to all of this is going to be accessibility, a lot of grace, a lot of patience. I just think if I was a leader of an organization, my primary objective right now would be focusing on creating a culture where people understand that they're valued and that their contributions matter, and that the fact that they showed up today matters. And I would be reaching across the table and making a demonstrated effort to walk down the hallway and get to know some of those employees and know them on a first name basis, ask them how things are going, just be accessible, stop by, have coffee with them. That can just be accessible. I think that's a biggie. The other thing too is, I think as an industry just across the board, we need to be just practicing a lot of grace right now. I mean, we've gone through a really difficult time, and people haven't always done things perfectly or made the right choices.
Right.
I think right now our industry calls for grace and forgiveness. And, things that, maybe previously didn't set well with us, maybe we just put a lot of those things aside, and we just demonstrate the true spirit of hospitality, which is all of those things inclusively. So that's probably, I guess, what I would say.
That's a very well analogy. I totally agree with you, and because it has been really hard on everyone, and if we can just, like you said, put things aside and let's move forward, we're going to be back before we even know it, no doubt.
So.
So what's next for Dr. Lorie Tuma? I mean, as a teacher, professor, you have to grow too. What are you doing? What are you inspiring? What's new for what's on the agenda for you?
Well, it's interesting because I was recently promoted and tenured, and you work so hard. First, you go to school for a lifetime just to get the job, and then you have to work another lifetime just to get tenured. So it was weird because I was tenured last year, and so I had sort of like a 9-month period of time where I'm thinking, what next? And I started doing some research on alternative instructional strategies, and I think I'm going to dabble in doing some podcasting.
Okay.
And then, inviting people that are in the industry into the classroom, not physically, because, some of that is so prohibitive, but just inviting them in, and then encouraging students to interact with them outside of the classroom, whether it be LinkedIn or via email or something. I think some of those skills need to be ramped up a little bit. And so I'm going to see what I can do from a teaching side to jazz things up in the classroom and make it a little bit more exciting.
Well, there's no one better than to lead the way than you and your experience and expertise. There's no doubt. What better way, again, to have anyone teach the young students to come into our industry than you as well. So I applaud what you went through with these students throughout this pandemic, but we know everything's getting better, and we know that, again, it's going to make all of us stronger, because there's no doubt we showed resilience among ourselves, and we weren't alone. And I think the students knew that they weren't alone either. So, so kudos to you for going through all that and taking our youth and bringing them into the industry that we all love and adore. So without you, we would not continue and grow and build in this industry. So thank you so much for your wisdom and all you do. Of all people that we have on the show, this definitely was a very important one to hear about, and not forget that those students are there to take over our industry sooner or later. And I know people will probably want to continue this conversation with you, and I certainly hope so. So I wanted to put your email and your website here. Is there any other way that we should be able to contact you?
Those are really the best ways. I'm really good about answering emails, so reach out anytime. I'd love to have more of these conversations and be more involved in this. So, and I appreciate you, Deborah, for everything that you're doing. Just even opening up this forum and allowing me to discuss these things. I think, like I said, I think we need to do this more, but you're amazing, and I really appreciate everything.
You as well. And that's what's so great about our industry. We are, as my husband says, it's such a kissy huggy industry, and we are one big happy family. There's no doubt about it. So anybody out there that would like to continue talking to Dr. Lorie Tuma, by all means, contact her here on her email and or the website. Either way, she would love to talk to you about, the whole future of our industry. So we don't want to misstep that, because this is very, very important, no doubt. So thank you again for being with us on GMID Day.
Thank you, Deborah.
Bye-bye.